So I have a chov from yesterday. I skipped the beginning of yesterday's Gemara, and I said I'll come back today, B'ez Hashem, but my chavrusa didn't come today, so I have to postpone it again still. It might be a chivin over Azmana. I'm not sure if it's going to come back. Try to come back. But yesterday we got to the end of the parak, and we'll start the 11th parak now with a chov, slava chov. So the Mishnah starts. This parak is called Nosen ala Anusa. So there's an issue of Isho, Bita, all kinds of relationships with two women, which means a wife and a mother, a wife and a sister, a wife and a daughter. And here it says that if the woman was not a wife, just he had relations with her, Anusa Mafuta, either by force or seduced, but that does not make the relationship in a way that he should become usher in her mother, sister, or daughter. So that's the first words in the Mishnah. That it's mutter to marry a relative of a woman who was anusa mafuta, raped or seduced, and it doesn't become this of isha bita in any way, or isha bachos. It doesn't become much if the first one that he had relations with was only there was nus. But the opposite, the onus from a frater ala nusua chaya. But if he married a woman, then it's not only us to marry the mother, to marry the sister, to marry the daughter. Then it's us even if it's going to be rape or seduction. Because the second one anyway is going to be znus. It's never, the kedusha is never tofes. So again, if first he was ma'anas a woman, mazana with a woman's stam, so then there's no issur to marry the relative of that woman, the mother, the daughter, sister. But if he married a woman, then it's usher to do znus also with any of the relatives, not only to marry the relative, which one anyway wouldn't happen. It's also to have znus with mother, sister, or daughter, even not derech nesuin. And that's what it says. That first there was an asua. There was a woman who was married to. Then it's also to be honest with any of the relatives. That's the first part of the Mishnah. New Mishnah, which I think is new Mishnah. It's not the same subject. Now we're going into the din of. Thank you. We're going into the din of Eishes Aviv, or Eishes Beno. Eishes Beno is what we call Kalasa, a daughter-in-law. So it's also to marry a father's wife. That's fairish, Eishes Aviv. The question is, how about if only was Anusa Aviv? That his father had relations with a woman out of marriage, just rape or seduction. So is the mutter to marry that woman? Is the mutter for the son to marry a woman that his father had relations with out of marriage? So the Mishnah, thank you. So the Mishnah says, that according to Tanakh, it's mutter. No, even though it's also Eishes Aviv, it's also to have his lust, to have relations with the father's wife, but only if it's with a wife. But if it would have been Anusa Aviv, Mafutas Aviv, then it's mutter to marry that woman. Anusa Beno, Mafutas Beno. Also, if the son was Mizana, so it's mutter for the father to take that woman in marriage, and it's not called Kalasa. It's not called the daughter-in-law. Daughter-in-law is only if the son married her. And that everybody agrees to. The second halacha about the daughter-in-law, everybody agrees. Even Rabbi Yehuda is not going to argue on that, but he does argue on the din of Eishes Aviv, Anusas Aviv. Rabbi Yehuda also Anusas Aviv and Mufutas Aviv. Even though he agrees that the man would be allowed to take his son's Anusa Mufuta, that's not called Kalasa. But as far as Eishes Aviv, it is going to be called some kind of Eishes Aviv. Rabbi Yehuda holds he's not allowed to marry a woman who his father had relations with, even if it wasn't marriage. Just to give a mashal, I think that's not a mashal, but a dogma that the case of Reuven, that even according to the Pashup Shad, that he had relations, the Gemara says that maybe it doesn't mean that, different machlokas over there, if it means literally or not, but even if it does mean literally, it wasn't Eishes Aviv, the Pasuk calls it Pilegesh Aviv, which would be Anusas Mufutas Aviv, and it might not be considered the Isser of the Chomer of Eishes Aviv. Also by David, that it says that Avshalom, with Achitophel's dates, it says that he Vaishkav the 10 Pilag Shei Aviv. So it wasn't the Isra of Eishes Aviv. Eishes Aviv would have been Mamash of Kores. So it wouldn't be Eishes Aviv. It was Mefutas Aviv. Pilagesh is like a Mefuta. That is mutter. That's mutter. Pilagesh is mutter. Then it wouldn't be considered, according to Tanakh, would have been mutter mamish. The only problem over there by Avshalom was that it was considered bezoyon to the father to take Pilagesh Aviv, but not that it was the Isra of Eishes Aviv. All Am Yisrael knew about it. It couldn't be that all Am Yisrael would agree to take Avshalom as a king when he was Mizana with Eishes Aviv 10 times. So just to point out that this is the Mishnah over here. So we have two halachas in the Mishnah. or maybe three. The first one is about how we want to divide it, but the first one is about the regular din about Isha Bita, Isha Vachosa, that if it was only Znus, so then it's mutter to take the relatives of the woman he was Mizana with, but if he married a woman, then it's also to be Mizana with those relatives. And then the second part of the Mishnah is talking about Eishes Avu, Eishes Beno, that according to Tanakam, it's only if it's a wife, but if it would have been only Derech Znus, then it's mutter to marry the woman that the father had relations with, or the woman that the son had relations with. Rabbi agrees to Nusas Beno, but he argues on Nusas of it, that he holds a Nusas of it is us. It's not going to be the same Mishnah as Eishes Avu, but it's going to be a love. That's the end of the Mishnah. The Gemara starts. The first part of the Mishnah that says no sanala nusa vala mafuta is a Mishnah that is in sync with the Brisa. The Brisa says so. And now I have a Perish Mishnah. What does it say in the Brisa? Anas isha muta lisa bita, nasa isha asa lisa bita. Mamish's point that if a person was ma'anas a woman, he's allowed to marry her daughter. There's no din of isha bita if he just was mazana with a woman. But if he married a woman, then he's also to marry the daughter. Difference if it was znus or was marriage. Remember, Kasha from Mishnah, Anitan Mino Isha, also if a person is chashud, he's suspect, he was claimed against Nitan that he had relations with a woman. Means he denies it maybe, but it's rumors that he was Mizana with a woman. So it says he's not allowed to marry her mother, daughter, or sister. And the kasha is, even if it's true, even if the rumor would be true, it also would be mutter to marry the mother, daughter, or sister, as we just said. So why does it say that he shouldn't marry her just because he was suspected? Even if it would be true, he'd be allowed to marry these relatives. Right. The answer is Rabbanan, that it is also Rabbanan, even though we said that it's not Asr, but it's not also Midaraisa, but it is also Rabbanan, and therefore this suspicion that the rumor is going around that he had relations with a woman, that's why he shouldn't marry the woman's relatives, because Rabbanan it will be Asr if he did have relations, even though Mishnah says you're allowed to. And that's the Mars Kasha. If it's Asr Rabbanan, the Mishnah wouldn't have said you're allowed to. No sin sounds like Hatchila. That's the Mars Kasha. Would it say such a lesson that you're allowed to marry if it be Asr Rabbanan? It can't be. The Gemara answers, Our Mishnah means after the woman died, then there's no Isra Rabbanan. That if he was ma'anas a woman, so it is also Rabbanan to marry her relatives. With a rice is mutter. With a Rabbanan is Asr. After the woman dies, so then there's no Isra Rabbanan either. The Isra, if it will be Isra the rice, then it's also to marry these women, the mother and the daughter, even after that. The sister would have been mutter, but the mother and the daughter would have been Asr if it would have been Isra the rice. Now it's only Isra Rabbanan that if he was ma'anas a woman, so with Rabbanan they said don't marry her relatives. Probably because of Gzeira of a marriage, but once they die, then there's no Isra Rabbanan either.
Or the mother is more stringent than the sister.
Yeah, for sure. But you know that the Isra of all relation of all arayos is even after death of the connecting factor. Only one exception: the wife's sister. That's after the wife dies, and they put the married sister. But everything else is Asr. But here, the Nosan al Nusa means to marry the wife's mother or the wife's daughter is only when it's a wife. But if it would have been only as Mizana with a woman, it would be able to take her mother or daughter. But Rabbanan is Asr. And after that, of the woman, the Anusa, then it's even mutter Rabbanan to take the mother or the daughter. The mother goes back to the Mishnah. Who says that it's mutter? What's the source that it's mutter to marry the relatives of a woman that he was Mazana with, Anusa, Mafuta, if it wasn't marriage? The Tan Rabbanan, by all of the rights, it doesn't say Lashon of Kicha, don't take. Taking means marriage. It just says Shchiva. Isha Yishkav is Isha. I don't remember all the psukim, but it's Lo Yigaleh Knafa. That's what it says all the time. Lo Yigaleh Knafa. Lo Yigaleh Ervasa Choso Gila. It doesn't talk about the word Kicha. But here, by the din of Isha Bita, it does say Kicha. It does say the word Lo Sikach. And that means only marriage. That it's only us if it was through marriage. If he married a woman, then it's also to marry her mother or daughter or sister. But if it would not be through marriage, then it wouldn't be us. By the din of a sister, they're not allowed to have relations with a sister. It also says the word kicha. That doesn't make sense. According to you, kicha only means marriage. Are you going to say it's only us to have relations with a sister derech marriage? But if he does it derech znus, then it's not going to be us. If he just lies with her without the derech of marriage, then it's not going to be us because you say the word kicha means marriage. Amalei, the kuchen ksivi b'torah stam. Arei the kicha, arei the shchiva. That the word the kicha could also mean stam znus. But if it's somebody who it's possible to have marriage with, then we take it to mean marriage. A sister that's not possible to have marriage, so the word the kich also could mean stam, to lie with. But if it's a person who he could marry, like all these halachas where it talks about not to take a woman and a mother, a woman and a daughter. So over there, we're going to say that it's only if it was with a kuchen means marriage. So the drasha means that it's could be mashma marriage, and if it could be marriage mashma also. But if it's possible a woman who is possible to marry, then take the pasuk to midafka marriage. So these are halachas about not marrying a mother, a wife's mother, sister, and daughter is only when he married the woman. They're the kuchen. Rabbi Amar, Anasisha Muta Lisa Bita Mayachav. Rabbi has another drasha to prove that it's muta to marry the daughter of a woman that he was ma'anas. He seems to this pasuk is only going to prove one thing. It's only going to prove the daughter. It doesn't talk about the mother or the sister, but he's going to bring a pasuk that's going to show that it is muta to marry the daughter of a woman that he was ma'anas. Why? Because that's what the pasuk says. Don't have relations with the daughter of your son or the daughter of your daughter. And thus it talks about your own daughter. Bas bincha, bas bitcha. But you could be medai, kabas bino dida, or bas bita dida, galei. You could make a deal that the pasuk only says if it's your daughter. What if it will be the woman's daughter, not your own daughter? It's not your own daughter, but it's the woman's daughter. So it's mashma that it would be mutter. The pasuk only says us if it's your daughter. But if it would have been only the woman's daughter and not yours, it would be mutter. But another pasuk says that there is a issue of marrying a wife's daughter. It does say that it is us to marry even the daughter of a woman, a wife, even if it's not your daughter. So how are you going to reconcile the two psukim? Okay, so how can you reconcile the stira? It must be the answer is that if he married the woman, that like Isha Obita means that he married her, so then it's going to be also even the daughter that it's not your daughter, her daughter. It's also to marry a woman and her daughter. But if it's only derech onsin that he didn't marry the woman, he just was manas or mafata her, so then it's only us if it's your daughter, the daughter that was born from you. But if she has a daughter that's not from you, then there's no issur. That would mean no sanalanusa balamafuta. Here, according to this drasha, it doesn't say that dafka which is which. It does says one pasuk is mother, one pasuk is asa. One pasuk says it's only us if it's your daughter. The other pasuk says it's us even if it's her daughter. But it doesn't say which is which. How do you know? Maybe it's the opposite. Maybe if it's a daughter of an anusa, it's asa, and the daughter of an nesu is mother. The answer is araya she'er kesivu. The nesu nikasher, ba'onsa kasher. That pasuk where it talks about bas beno bas pita, it says sharahein ozimo. Here it says the word she'er, and the word she'er means a relation. So relation is only if he married her, but there's nus is not called a relationship. So the case where it talks about marrying the woman, that's where it says that it's also to take her daughter or the granddaughter. But if it's a case of znus without marriage, that's not a pasuk where it's mashmas only us. If it will be your daughter, your son, your son, the son of your daughter, the son of your son. But if it would be just a woman's, it would be mutter. That was the drasha to learn out. And that's the halacha that if a man was manas a woman, it doesn't become usher to marry her mother, sister, or daughter. Then the second part of the Mishnah spoke about the Nusa Savik. So he said that Esha Savik for sure is Asa. Another question is Anusa Savik, and that was Tanakam said it's mutter, same as Anusas Beno, but the Buddha says no, that Anusa Savik is also Asa. Just to give the example again, that according to Rabbi Yehuda, so Avshalom did an Issa. He didn't do Esha Savik, but he did an Issa. According to Tanakama, it wasn't an Issa, technical Issa. Rabbi Yehuda, Anusa Savik. My time, Rabbi Yehuda, where's he get it from? What's the drush of Rabbi Yehuda that Anusa Savik was Asa? We had this a couple of times. It said there's on the side. It's supposed to be in Brachas also. I think this is the famous drasha where you learn out Smuchen. Here it is, the Dalet it says on the side. This is the famous drasha of Smuchen. My time, and even though Abu doesn't darshan Smuchen, the Torah Kula, he darshans this Smuchen because it's a Mishnah Torah. Here the Gemara doesn't go into all that, but that's what the Gemara says other places, that Abu does darshan Smuchen and did in the Dvorim. It says a person should not take the wife of his father. That's for sure. That's Pashat. That he can't marry the wife of a father. Then it ends off. He should not uncover the garment of his father, which would mean that's extra pasuk. That's what the pasuk means. Is going on the same case. But it's extra pasuk. It's unnecessary. So the Gemara is going to make a drash out of that. And Abuda says it means even if it wasn't through marriage, not Eishes Aviv, just that the father had relations with a woman. That's called Kanaf Shera Aviv. That the garment, that the Gilu Kanaf, that the father had relations with a woman, and even if it was not through marriage, also don't have relations. Don't have relations with a woman that the father had relations with, even if it wasn't marriage. How do you know? It says some ribuy over how you're talking about dafka anusa, because right before that it says not right before that, but in the pasuk earlier, the previous pasuk it says, the nasana isha shachev imola v'yanayroch hamishim kesef. Over there it's talking about anusa, the onus of mafata. Over there it talks about onus, and it says that if a man was ma'anas a woman raped a woman, so he has to take her for a wife, and also hamishim kesef, he has to pay. So it's talking about anusa over there, a different parasha, not about the father. And then now the pasuk says something about an extra pasuk, lo yigal leknaf aviv. So we'll learn out that it's talking about onus. That's why we view this drasha, smuchim, the fact that it's next to each other, the proximity in the pasuk, that shows that it's talking about anusas of it. Rabbanan, don't Rabbanan agree that Kedash and smuchim? The answer is, yeah, but some to the comment. If it would have been mamish right next to it, that these two psukim would be immediately in adjacent to each other, then I agree. We would have dashed that it means anusas of it, but it doesn't say right next to each other. Hashta the lo samachle, it's not mamish in between. Then the reason why it's not mamish in between is because it says this part of the pasuk before that. It first talks about anusa, like it says, etc. Then it says, so the beginning of the pasuk is interrupting. So it's not mamish samach. The lo is not mamish close to the pasuk about the onus. So I want to say we're not going to dash that it's talking about anusa sabib. So what is the pasuk talking about? So we need a pasuk, we need a drash. What is the pasuk? What are we going to do with that? The pasuk is talking about that it's also to take the shomer shavim of his father. It means his father had a brother who died without children, and that woman is zakuka to his father. So the son is not allowed to take zakuka sabid. The shomer shavim shalabid. And the more I ask the kasha, surely he's not allowed to. You don't need a pasuk for that. That's it's his aunt. If it's his father's brother's wife, even if it wouldn't have been anything about Yibam, his father's brother's wife is Asa. So even if the brother died, everything shall still be Asa. So, and the father died, once it's an aunt, it's an aunt. So why do you need a pasuk to say that a person is not allowed to marry the Shemer Shavim of his father? Of course he's not allowed to. It's his aunt. The answer is Lava Lava Shnei Lavin. It's true, it would be Asa, but if it would have been without a Shemer Shavim, if their man would have had children, whatever, so then it would only be the Isser of the Dasa. But now that it's also a Shemer Shavim Shalav, if there's also a Zika to the father, so besides being his aunt, it's also his brother's, his father's Shemer Shavim. So therefore there's two Isurim. The type of claim is Shemer Yevamos L'Shuk, then the more Sakasha Stam, if she's Yevamos L'Shuk, if she's the Yevamos, so then anybody's not allowed to marry her, not only the son of the one who's supposed to do Yivam. Anybody's not allowed to marry her. The answer is Lava Lava Shlosh Shalav, and you're right. There's going to be three Yisum. There's going to be a Shemer Shavim L'Shuk, and there's going to be the Dasa, and there's also going to be a new Isser of Shemer Shavim Shalav. Ibai Sema La'acham Misa. Or you could say that I could take out the Isser of Shemer Shavim if the father died. Means the father had a brother who died without children, and that woman is falling to the father. So as long as the father's alive, so then she's a Shemer Shavim. No one's allowed to marry her. But if the father died and there's no other brothers, she's not a Shemer Shavim anymore, and Mitzat Shemer Shavim would be mutter. But the son is not allowed to marry. The son is not allowed to marry Shemer Shavim Shalav, even after
He died?
the father died.
That's beautiful.
What?
That's beautiful. That's the father.
The pasuk saying in Uisa that even though it's considered the daso, anyway it's his aunt and it's anyway chayv karas. But if it's also Shemer Shavim Shalav, even after the father died, it still will be Yasser since it was Kanaf Haroy Laviv. Also, there's going to be two Yisurim. I skip one line over there. My Kanaf Aviv, Kanaf Haroy Laviv. That's why you say that Shemer Shavim, the woman who was Roy to his father because she was Shemer Shavim. That's the end of the Gemara. The Gemara said Machlok is about Anusas Aviv, and
would that be Isa? Isa?
I'm sorry.
Wouldn't that be Ein Isa Chalal Isa?
Ein Isa Chalal Isa. The first it came that she was the Dasa. Why don't you say that this would be a case of Ein Isa Chalal Isa because it was the Dasa first, and now it's becoming Shomer Shavim Shalav. I don't know the answer. Yeshikah, I don't know. Okay, next sugya, Amud Beis. Amud Beis is very interesting. 7 riddles, and the one says the answers also. Now, what's the purpose of all the riddles? I don't know. Taisa says on the top that Rashi says Mishalo saying it's like riddles. We'll see that it's a riddle, and it's in the form of a riddle. Some of them are a bit dramatic. And Rashi says, as if it was a common riddle. I'm not sure what that means. Taisa says that it's not telling you any chidushim, just the chuvas hatzedukim. So what does that mean? So I saw someone, the sifter brought down from somebody that it means that it means just to show the chachma of the Gemara, to show that we can figure out these riddles. There must be something deeper also, I think, but maybe something esoteric, I don't know. But we're going to go through the Gemara to Pashup Pshat, and there's 7 riddles over here. I also have charts for this, so maybe it'll make it easier also. 1 second, I have to get to try to make both of them at the same time. Good, 1 second, please. Okay. So the first case, the first riddle. Let me try to get this on here. Okay, a bit smaller. Ach me'av v'lo me'em, v'hu ba'ala de'em, v'lo brata de'ensei. A woman says about a man that he's a brother from the common father, not from the common mother, and he's my husband. No, I'm sorry. And he's the husband. He's the husband of that woman. And I am the daughter of his wife. So there's the case over here. There was a couple that they had a son, and then the man was ma'anas a woman. That's why it's in red. He was ma'anas a woman, and they had a daughter. So this man is allowed to marry this woman. Because you see that? Is that clear? You can see that? That's it. Oh, maybe this one here. That's because you can see. So yeah, that's called anusa saviv. For this man to marry this woman would be called anusa saviv. He was only ma'anas. It's not esha saviv. It's again, a man and a woman had a son. This man was ma'anas a woman, and they had a daughter. So this man is allowed to marry that woman because it's anusa saviv. So this man, what?
He could marry her daughter also.
He surely can marry the daughter. He even could marry the woman.
Mhm.
Oh, I'm sorry. He can't marry the daughter. That would be a chosel me'ovid. No, he can't marry the daughter. That would be a chosel. That would be also right. But he could marry the woman as nusa saviv. So this woman says about this man, he's my brother from the common father, not from the common mother, and he is her husband. He married her, and I am the wife. I'm the daughter of his wife, which is another way of saying that my mother's husband or this man's wife's daughter is the same thing, but it's just expressing that's the riddle. And the answer is, here it is. This is the case that man was ma'anas a woman, and this daughter says about that son who married his mother, her mother, he is a brother from the common father, not from the common mother, and he's the husband of my mother, and I'm the daughter. If you want to make that as it wasn't a permissible way, the low kabuda the masnis. And that's only if you don't know the kabuda. According to kabuda, he's not allowed to marry her because it will be a nusa saviv. He's not allowed to marry a nusa saviv. If you want to make it in a kosher scenario, so it only goes according to Rabban. If you want to make it in a treifa scenario, so okay, it also could be. The Gemara is going to go through many cases that are going to be treifa scenarios, and the Gemara has no problem with that. But the Gemara says this first case, if you want to make it a kosher scenario, it'll be according to the Rabbanan of Rabbi Yehuda that it's mutter to marry a nusa saviv. That was case number 1. Riddle number 1. Riddle number 2. Now the rest of them, the Gemara calls them goyim. A goy did it, not because it makes a difference if a goy did it or a Jew did it. It's just because if it's a treifa case, we want to say that a goy did it. So that's why the Meiri they bring down says that's why it says such a case. What's the case over here? Achu ubrihu achseana tahai dederina akaspoy. He's my brother and my son. He's my brother and my son. And another way to say that is the one that I'm carrying on my shoulder, like the one who the woman is carrying her son, is my. I'm the sister. So mishkachas lo b'goy habal bito. So here's the case. Try to get it up here. A man had a daughter. Call him a goy because he's going to do a treifa thing. So a goy had a daughter, and he had relations with her, and they had a son. So this woman says about the son, he's my son and my brother. The one that I'm carrying in my bosom over here, my son is also my brother because they have a common father. Next case number 3. Shamalach bri Shalom Aleichem, my son. Bas ach sechana. I'm the daughter of your sister. A woman could say to her son, you're my son, and also I am the daughter of your sister. How do you have that? Case number 3, that a goy, we'll call him a goy again because he did a trade thing. He had relations with his granddaughter. He had relations with his daughter's daughter, and they had a son. So this woman says to her son, Shalom Aleichem, my son, I am the daughter of your sister. Did I get it right? This woman and this boy, this son are brother and sister, have a common father. And she says to her son, this woman, the granddaughter, says to her son, you're my son, and I am the daughter of your sister.
Yeah, okay.
So that's the riddle, and that's the answer. We got the answer right away together with the riddle. Case number 4. So here it gives a little introduction. It says, the dalu davla lipal b'chu sasa pasa. I never know what that means. I wouldn't know. Rashi says that it means those who water the field, which Rashi says means like the B'nai. Rashi, before she explained, Rashi means to say that this is an easy one. This is easy one that even the workers who are water the fields, they also have to figure it out. I gave you. Oh, here it says I gave you a riddle that's hard. Maybe it's hard for the workers. The Taisa says the opposite. Taisa says that it means that this is for the Chachamim. The Chachamim means that the ones that draw the waters is like a mushal for those who could draw the waters, the deep waters. That's called Chachamim. But they ask on Taisvis that is not such a hard one, especially it's one we have number 3. Number 4 is not so difficult either. And here it goes. Mishkachas la the hide the rina who bar bana bratachu. It's very similar to the one before. The one that I'm carrying means my son. He's my son, and I am the daughter of his brother, which is the same case as before. That's number 4. That not that the goy had relations with his daughter's daughter, but with his son's daughter. So this woman says to and they had a son. The grandfather had relations with his granddaughter, and they had a son. So the woman says to her son, "You're my son, and I am the daughter of your brother," because they have a common father. The son and this grandson, the great grandson of it, they have a common father. So this woman says to her son, "You're my son, and I am the daughter of your brother." That's how it said. I did the rina who bar bana brat achua. The one that I'm carrying is my son, and I am the daughter of his brother. That was case number 4. Case number 5 is a bit more involved. Baya means like tzaka, like vai, even though it's baya means like tzaka. Me'ach,
Like soccer.
me'ach, v'hu av, v'hu bal, v'hu.
The inverse of almost I.
Okay. Okay. Me'ach, v'hu av, v'hu bal, v'hu bar bal, v'hu bal adeim, v'ano brata de'itse, v'lo yapita lachu yasmi b'nei brate. Like I'm complaining against my brother, who's also my father, who's also my husband, who's also the son of my husband, who's also the husband of my mother, and I am the daughter of his wife. I'm related to him in all these different ways, and he's not giving bread to his brother, the Yesomim, who are the sons of his daughter. So the whole thing about the mazonos and giving food, that's just be part of the riddle, that I'm complaining about my brother and etc. has all these things, and he's not having achmanis on his brothers who are also Yisomim, who are also his grandsons. So what's the case over here? This is case number 5. So here's a case. There was a couple, a man and a woman that had a son, and then the son was Baal Imo, had relations with his mother, and they had a daughter. And then also, it's to put into the case, and then after he had his daughter, he also had relations with her. He had relations with his daughter. That was already a mamzeres, but he had relations with her also. It doesn't say anything was born out of that. And then the grandfather, he also had relations with that daughter, and they had a son. And this woman is talking to this son and saying we're related in all these different ways. So let's try to get through the Gemara for that. Oh, I'm sorry. she's complaining she's talking about this man. This woman is complaining about this man, her father. She says, he's my brother, he's my father. Let's go to the Gemara a little bit. I'm complaining about my brother, who's also my father and also my husband. So how do we do that? She, to him, I'm sorry, 1 second, something went wrong over there. She says about him, you're my brother. That's true, because they both have a common mother, right? You're my brother. You're also my father. Yeah, that's what happened. That he had relations with his mother, and that's how they got this daughter. So you're my father, you're my brother, and also you're my husband, because he had relations with her also. After that whole story, he also was Baal, so he's also called the husband. And what else is it? And Barbal, you're also the son of my husband. Why is that? Because the grandfather also had relations with her. So you're the son of my husband. Who? What's the next word over here? Who Bala the aim. You're also the husband of my mother. There it is, because her mother. How did she? Why was she born? Because this man was Baal Imo. So you're my mother's husband. And what else is he? I forgot what the Gemara says.
My mother's husband is my father. Well, isn't that the same thing?
Yes. You're the one. Which one are you going on now? Baal. You're the which one? Which ones are you going on? Again, you're my brother. Who's my father? Who's my husband?
Well, if you're my mother's husband, you are my father. Who of? But then isn't that also the same as being the husband of my mother?
Let me just put it on. I'm not following. 1 second. It went again. It didn't go. You're my brother. You are my father. You are my husband. Good so far? You are the son of my husband, right? That's over there. That you're the son of this man who had relations with me. So you're the son of my husband. Who followed the aim, and you're also the husband of my mother. Was that repeated already?
Well, I thought the husband of my mother is my father. So
Not necessarily, right? A husband of a mother doesn't have to be a father necessarily.
Oh, I see. Okay.
You're also the husband of my mother. And I missed one more. What's the next one? That is the same thing. I'm the daughter of his wife. Saying the daughter of his wife is saying the same thing as you're my mother's husband. That is the inverse. That's the same thing. And all these different relationships are related in so many different ways, and you're not giving food to your brother. You're not supporting this. Let's say this man died now. He's a yasam. This boy is a yasam. His father died. And you are not giving support to your brother, common father. This child and this man have a common father, and he's also your daughter's son. Like what a chutzpah that you're related in so many different ways, and this orphan is also related to you in these two ways. He's your brother and also your grandson, and you're not giving him his owners. So that's the riddle. And the Gemara says, tells the answer to the riddle. I just put it on the chart. That's what the Gemara says, or else I wouldn't know it. But here's the Gemara. Nishkachas la b'goy habal imo v'holid mimena bas v'chazer habal los abas v'chazer zakin habal leha v'holid mimena banim. The case would be a goy or anybody who's in Russia that he had relations with his mother. Get it on again. I don't know where to put it exactly. That the goy had relations with his mother and had a daughter, and then he again had relations with that daughter. And then the grandfather also had relations with that daughter and had a son. The goy had relations with, this is the goy, had relations with his mother and had a daughter, and then he had also relations with that daughter, and the grandfather also had relations with that daughter and had a son. So she says to that brother, father, husband, all those things, that you're not having rachmanis on your brother was also your grandson. That was case number 5. Case number 6, third white line. Anava at ache, anava avuch ache, anava imach ache. That's the riddle. A woman says to a man, you and I are brothers, brother, sister, and also you and I and you are brothers. I and your father are brothers. I and your mother are brother, sister. How can you have a case that somebody can say all these things? Case number 6. What happened over here? A woman had a son, and then he had relations with that mother, and they had 2 daughters. And then the father of those 2 daughters had relations again with one of them, and they had a son. And now this woman is talking to that, could say to this man, you and I are brothers, brother, sister. How is that? Because we have a common father, right? He's the father of them, these 2 sisters. He's also the father of this boy. So she says to this boy that you and I are brother, sister. You, I, and your father are brother and sister because your father is this man, and we're brother, sister because we have a common mother. Also true. And you and I and your mother are sisters because they are. They have the common father and a common sister, a common father and a common mother. So that would be a case where a woman could say to a man that you and I are brother, sister. You and me and your father are brother, sister, and me and your mother are sisters. And case number 7. The last case the Gemara is going to say could be a kosher case also. See, so for all the cases, the first case the Gemara said depends on Rabbi and the Rabbanan if it's kosher or not, and then all the other 5 cases were treifa cases. We called it a goy, and now the last case the Gemara is going to say could be a kosher case also. Ana va'at b'nei ache, ana va'avuch b'nei ache, ana va'imach b'nei ache. I and you are cousins. I and your father are cousins. I and your mother are cousins. And the Gemara says the answer to this riddle. This is possible even in a kosher case. Reuven has 2 daughters. And there are 3 brothers, Reuven, Shimon, Levi. Reuven has 2 daughters. Shimon, one of the brothers, marries one of the Reuven's daughters, and Levi's son marries one of Reuven's daughters. Let's get that on. Here's case number 7. And you have here, this is Yaakov Avinu, Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Reuven, call the middle one Reuven just for the graphics. Reuven's in the middle, Shimon is on the side here, Levi's over here. So Reuven had 2 daughters, everything's kosher over here. Reuven had 2 daughters, and Shimon married one of his daughters, that's marrying a niece, that's a good thing. He married a niece. And Levi's son married his cousin. Right? Reuven had a brother Shimon and brother Levi. One brother married one of Reuven's daughters, and his other brother Levi's son married Reuven's other daughter. And then they had children. That Shimon and his wife had children, Levi and his wife, Levi's grandson, Levi's son, and Reuven's daughter had a son. So these 2 kids, they talk to each other, and he says to him, this one says, the son of Shimon says to the grandson of Levi that we are cousins. And your father's my cousin and your mother's my cousin. How is that? We are cousins. Here they are because they have their mothers are sisters. So we are cousins. Also, your father is my cousin. Why is that? Because your father is the son of Levi, and I am the son of Shimon. Shimon and Levi are brothers. So I'm cousins with your father also. I'm also cousins with your mother because your mother is the daughter of Reuven, and I am the son of Shimon. So I'm cousins with your mother also. So here's a case where they can say to each other, he can say to him, I am your cousin, I'm your father's cousin, I'm your mother's cousin.
excuse me, from the chart, wouldn't he also be his cousin to his mother?
Did I say that? It is not the three cases that
Start
I
with
am.
spaced out. No,
Okay, I'm your cousin.
it's his
I'm your
cousin.
father's cousin. I'm your mother's cousin.
No, his mother. He's a cousin to his own mother. His mother is the daughter of his father's brother.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess they didn't say that. But isn't that true? His mother is also his cousin.
Yes. Yes. I guess we found in that he says to one person, he's talking to one person, and he says these three things. But you seem to be right that his mother is also his cousin. Yes.
Yeah, that's not related to that other man. Maybe he's only talking about in relationship to that man.
Right. That you are your father, your mother. But also you can say that my mother is also my cousin. My
What
mother
is
is
that?
also a cousin.
The woman would be his aunt. Is that right?
What is that?
The circle on the left, the man on the left.
Which one am I? The man on the left? Yes.
The bottom, isn't that a man on the bottom?
Yes.
So isn't his mother's sister is his aunt, isn't it?
Yes.
So his aunt is also that person who's talking's cousin. His aunt is also his cousin.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
so you're saying that so you're saying that it could have been even nicer. It could have been you're my cousin, your father's my cousin, your mother's my cousin, and your aunt is my cousin.
Yeah.
You seem to be right. Anybody have any objection to what Leib Yaakov is saying? Your aunt, it means my mother, is also my cousin. Yes, I think you're right. Nice. Yashikov. Thank you. Okay, next Gemara. Next Mishnah. That's it for the charts today. Hagiores. New Mishnah. Hagiores shenisgairu b'nei ima. A woman was Megayah, she converted, and the two sons also were Megayah. At this point, I don't think it makes a difference if the woman was Megayah or not. The point is about her sons. But we'll see if there's also going to be issues about her Giyur also in the rest of the Mishnah. So here's a woman who's Megayah, her two sons also were Megayah. And now, so you have two brothers, the two biological brothers. And one of them died without children. Is there Yibum? So it says there's no Yibum. Lo chosim lo b'yabim. There's no Yibum. Why would you think so? Why is there no Yibum? So I think everybody would jump up because Gerim is not related. That's why the first thing would come to mind. But Rashi doesn't say that. The Gemara is not going to go so simply with that. The Gemara is going to go another reason why they're not related is because the father were Goyim. So there's no relationship to the Goyish father. But we'll see more as we go along. So far, Allah is good that the two brothers who are Gerim, so if one of them dies, there's no Chalitz or Yibum to the widow. Afilu.
Because you have to keep your father's name alive. No, I don't understand why.
Two Gerim, they were Megayah, one of them died without sons. There's no din Yibum from the brother Ger. The two Gerim, brothers, one of them died without children, there's no din Yibum. Afilu harasa shlo bishan shlo b'kedusha v'ledasa b'kedusha v'asheni harasa v'ledasa b'kedusha. Even if one of them was conceived when the mother was Megayah here, right? The mother was Megayah here. The mother was Megayah when she was pregnant. If they have the pregnancy of the first one, so the first one was conceived when the mother was still a goy. That's called shlo b'kedusha, and she gave birth when she was already a Jewish. That means that she converted while she was pregnant, and then this child was born. And the second one was a full Jew. That even his conception also was ready when the mother was Jewish. He's a full Jew. Also, there's not going to be Yibum between the two, because the first one is not considered Jewish. We spoke about this once upon a time. I think that we got it right, that the Gemara says that when a woman gives birth, she's Jewish. That's not enough to make the child Jewish. When a woman was Megayah when she was pregnant, but the conception was when she was still a goy. So even though when she gives birth, she's already Jewish, it doesn't make the child Jewish.
That's the conclusion we made. We learned this.
Because we spoke about the tefillah, but there talks about when she goes to the mikvah, how does it help for this? How does it help for the uber? How does it help for the fetus? And the more said over there, do you talk about uber yerachimo, or do you talk about that it's not considered a chatzitza because that's derech yidudo, revise, that's normal for him, so it's not considered a chatzitza, even if it's kulo. Usually, you only say rubo she'eno makpid, but here it's kulo. But the fact that it's revise, it's not a. But the Gemara is going the whole time over there that it has to be that the fetus, the uber, also was immersed. If you would say everything depends on the birth, and I thought everything depends on the birth. A Jewish woman gives birth, the kid is Jewish, then the Gemara wouldn't talk about the mikvah. The kid doesn't need the mikvah, the mother needs the mikvah. But I was wrong, that it doesn't have anything to do, doesn't go with the birth, but it has to do with this woman, even though both children were born when she was Jewish, but the first one was conceived when she was still a Goya, so there's no chalitza and yibum between the two brothers. So that's the Mishnah. If that's good, we go further. Again, the first part of the Mishnah was two brothers Gerim, there's no chalitza yibum between them. And then it says even if the second one is Jewish, but the first one was only born from a Jewish mother, but the conception was not a Jewish mother, so also there's no yibum between them. The Mishnah ends off, also this was Maragoya, was Magaya, the same thing that a Shifcha, that she was freed, liberated, and that makes her Jewish, and her two sons that were Avadim also were Mishtachrer, so also they're not considered related to each other, and therefore there's no yibum between those two sons. That's our Mishnah. The Gemara starts with a left field case, then it's going to come back to our Mishnah. It says a story. The children of the Shifcha, whose name was Yudin. It sounds like Yudin is a woman's name. The children of Yudin, the Shifcha, became free. It seems that they were Avadim, she was a Shifcha, and they all got free. Or at least the children got free. That's the subject over here. Ravacha Yaakov allowed them to marry the other one's wife. That means that even if after they, not when they were Avadim, but they were Jewish, they became freed. So now you have these two Avadim Mishachrorim, and they got married. And then, whatever the case would have been, one of them died or divorced. The brother is allowed to take the sister-in-law, even though you're not allowed to marry a sister-in-law. It's not considered a sister-in-law. Two Avadim Mishachrorim, you can call it Gerim also, for that matter, that they have wives. They're not considered brothers, that it should be us to take a sister-in-law. That's what Ravacha Yaakov said. He permitted one of them, or both of them, to marry each other's wives. Amalei Rava bar Rav Sheshes Asa. Rava complained to Ravacha Yaakov. Rav Sheshes did not permit it. Amalei, who was Avana Shavina? Okay, Machlokes. I hold that it's Asa. You hold that it's Mutter. It's not a Mishnah. You're asking only Rav Sheshes. So how do you say Gava Karamis? That you're asking Kasha from Amor against an Amora? So I argue. So Machlokes Ravacha Yaakov that says that it's Mutter, and Rav Sheshes says that it's Asa. Now the Gemara is coming to explain the Machlokes. Mina Avalo Mina Aim. Now the Gemara doesn't go yet. Just to point out that the confusion of the Gemara, I think I was confused that we know Gershon is guy Kaddish and the dummy. Usually you say that Gerim are considered newborn and they're not related at all. But the Gemara doesn't go like that. The Gemara is not yet going like that. The Gemara is saying that really there could be a relationship between Gerim. But the Gemara says it depends if they are considered related through the father or through the mother. Mina Avalo Mina Aim. If these two Avadim only have a common father and not a common mother, everybody would agree that it's mutter. They're not considered. They're not considered related from a common father. Rashi throws in it could be it's not even a common father. That even though we think we know who the father is, could be we don't know who the fathers are. So that's not enough. Also, Rashi throws in Zir Masusim Zir Masam that the father is not considered a connecting factor. It's not going to be considered that they are related through the father. So everybody would agree that we're allowed to marry the sisters-in-law because if they're only brothers through this common father, it's not enough to make them considered brothers. The opposite, if there would be a common mother only, not a common father, everybody would agree that it is Yasser because they are related through the mother. It doesn't mean that it's going to be Yasser Minadin maybe, but it's going to be Yasser at least that it looks like a common brother, like a brother. But if they're related both common father and a common mother, that might be more reason why it should be. It might be mutter. even though we said that if it's only from a mother, it's, I'm sorry, that if it's from a father, what did I say? I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Sure, it's mutter. If it's from the mother, then it's asa. So here you might think if it's the mother and the father, then surely it's asa. I mean, it's from the mother. We said the mother is asa. But no, the fact that there's a common father is a reason to make it more mutter. Man the shari basa abashadina. The one who says that it's mutter is because since they have a common father, people relate to them as being brothers to the father. People don't call them the sons of the common mother. They call them the sons of the common father, even though they happen to have a common mother also. That's not how people think about them. So therefore, people say they're only related to the father. That's not considered a relationship, and they're not going to make a mistake and apply that to Jewish brothers. And that's why he holds that it's mutter, even though they're also related through the mother. But since they're related through the father, that's what people focus on. Rav Sheshes argues and says no, that it's asur because that they do call them also the brothers through the common mother, and the common mother already is considered a brotherhood, and you're going to learn how to apply that to Jewish brothers also. And if you're going to marry a sister-in-law, people will say that you're allowed to marry a sister-in-law even by Jews. That's the first lashon. Again, the first lashon says that if it will be only a common father, everyone agrees they'd be allowed to marry a sister-in-law. They're not considered brothers. If it will be from a common mother only, everybody would agree that it's asur mirabanan because it looks like brothers, and people shouldn't learn to Jews. But if they're related, common brothers and common mother, they're brothers from a common father and a common mother. The question is, do you look only at the people only look at the father and they won't apply that to Jews, or they look at the mother also and they will apply it to Jews? And is the room to make a Isser Rabbanan to marry the sister-in-law? That's the first lashon. Ikadamri, others have a different version in the Machlokis that Pali Ravacha B'Yakov Afilu Ba'achin Minaim. Ravacha B'Yakov, who says that it's mutter, is even if they're brothers from a common mother also. And this is what we're waiting for. My timer, Gershon, this guy, I was taught the Gemara held this the whole time. Here, see, it's not so simple. At this point, the Gemara says, says that even if they're related to the common mother, but I don't care because once they're Magayer, they're considered newly born and they're not related. So two brothers, Goyim, from a common mother, and they both are Magayer, we look at them like they're not related at all, and they'd be allowed to marry their sister-in-law. They're not considered related. Tomorrow's kasha from our Mishnah, Tanan, Hagiyorish and his gar b'nei ima l'chosim v'lo b'yabim. Our Mishnah says that this case with the two sons who Magaya, so there's no chalitza and yibum between them. They're not considered brothers, and there's no yibum. But the Gemara has a point over here that we didn't say in the Mishnah. It says there's no mitzvah of yibum. There's no mitzvah of yibum. Is there an issa? I mean, usually by Jews, whenever there's no mitzvah of yibum, so then it's also to take the sister-in-law. There's issa of Eishasach. But the issue of Eishasach is overridden by the mitzvah of Yibum. Here, it says there's no Yibum. Does that mean that he's no mitzvah, but he could marry the sister-in-law? Or that he's not allowed to marry the sister-in-law? The Gemara thinks that's just like always. Whenever it says there's no Yibum, he's not allowed to. My timer, La Mishum Da Asiri. Doesn't it mean that you can't do Yibum? Because there's no mitzvah of Yibum, plus there's also an Isra of a sister-in-law. But according to Rabbi Yaakov, there is no Isra of a sister-in-law because they're not related. We'll go with the second Lashon. Gershon is guy comes in Oladami, so there's no Isra to marry the two converts, brothers, can marry the sister-in-law. So why does the Mishnah say that you're not allowed to? There's no mitzvah, but you should be allowed to. So the Moshe, that's what it means. No, it doesn't mean that you're not allowed to marry. The Ein B'Torah's Chalitza of Yibum just means that there's no mitzvah of Yibum. There's no mitzvah of Yibum, but if you want to marry, you can marry. Like any woman, they're not related. That they're mutter to marry out because there's no mitzvah of Yibum. If they want to, they can marry also because there's no mitzvah to marry a sister-in-law from brothers that were converted because they're not considered related. The Gemara doesn't like that. The Gemara says the Mishnah doesn't sound like that. The end of the Mishnah says, here goes, let's go back to the Mishnah. It says that there's no chalitza and Yibum. It first talks about that the two sons were Magaya. And it says no mitzvah of Yibum. Then it says more. Afilu what? Afilu harasa shalvish shlo b'kedusha v'ledasa b'kedusha v'asheni harasa v'ledasa b'kedusha. Even if the first one was conceived as a goya, and then when he was born she was already Jewish, and the second one was completely Jewish. Still. So what does still mean? So the Gemara wants to prove that the still means that there's still usher, to marry the sister-in-law. How does the Gemara explain that? It says, what's afilu? If it's coming to say that they're not allowed to marry because it's a sister-in-law without the mitzvah of Yibum, that's why there's a big chiddush in the second case than in the first case. The first case was that both of them were Magaya. Second case was that the first one was born after the mother was Megayer during pregnancy, and the second one was even conceived also as the mother was Jewish. So then is a chiddush. Afagav the rishon arasa shlo b'kedusha v'lodasa b'kedusha v'asheni arasa v'lodasa b'kedusha ukishtei mos dami. That they're more separated, they're more different. The fact that the first case, they were both in the same boat, both of them were goyim and they converted. The second case, there seems to be two different mothers. The fact that the first one, when she conceived, she was a goya, and the second one, when she conceived, she was Jewish. That makes that the two different mothers, and there might be more reason to say that they're allowed to marry a sister-in-law because they're more separated from each other. So then, still it's asa. If the Mishnah is coming to say that not only is the no mitzvah of Yibum, but it's asa to take the sister-in-law, then we see a chiddush in the afilu that even though in the sefer they're more separated, they're more different, still it's asa to take as a sister-in-law. But if you come to say that the Mishnah is saying that the Mishnah is saying there's no mitzvah of Yibum, but they wanted, they could marry a sister-in-law. My afilu, what's the even? Why is the second case more of a chiddush that there's no mitzvah of Yibum? And the Gemara answers no. You can learn the Mishnah differently also. That it's that the chiddush is my afilu that you might think that there should be a necessary chalitz over here because it does look more Jewish. They're mutter to marry. They're mutter to marry the sister-in-law. But afilu, even though both of them have a common, they are common over here because both of them were born Jewish when the mother was Jewish already. So you might think that it's similar to Jews. And
why not? You think yes.
What?
You would think definitely they're Jews because they go from. Maybe were they conceived as Jewish?
The first one was conceived when the mother was a Goya, and the second one was when she was already Jewish. But the birth of them, both births, were when she was Jewish. So you might think that it's similar to Jews. And then I would think that it means that you have to do Yibum in this case, or you can't do Yibum maybe, but maybe you could, but it wouldn't be necessary. But still, there's no mitzvah of Yibum. Others have a different version in the Machlokes. The same thing, but it's the opposite. What we do first and what was the Chiddush. The other way the Gemara wants to prove, Adarabba, Rabbi Yaakov is right, that there's no Issa to marry a sister-in-law. The Sharu, I'll bring a proof that they're mutter, because now the Gemara goes the opposite. Tiktani Afilu, it says that Afilu, and here the Gemara goes with Afilu is mashma that they're mutter to marry. Iyamit Bishlam Sharu, that they're mutter to marry a sister-in-law. There's no mitzvah, but it's mutter. Hani the Tani Afilu, Dafagav the Tavayu doesn't bigdusha, doesn't be Yisrael Afilu Wachisharu, that they're allowed to marry the sister-in-law, even though it looks very Jewish, because both of them were born Jewish, born from a Jewish mother. So you might think it's similar to Jews, and if you're going to marry the sister-in-law, people will think that you're allowed to marry sister-in-law from regular Jews also. Still it's mutter. They're going to confuse by Jews. If you're going to say, look, they look like regular Jewish sons that born from a Jewish mother. So you might think that people will say that if this is mutter, then two regular Jewish boys that were born from the common mother are also allowed to marry the sister-in-law if one of them dies. So no, afilu wachishawi, don't make such a gezerah. Eliyam dasiri, my afilu. What's going to be the isser that is usser that they're not allowed to marry? The only question is about yibum. What's going to be the more? Why is there more afilu over here? The Gemara says there's an afilu. Don't forget the rishon arasa shlo b'kedusha, but the dasa b'kedusha. V'asheni arasa the dasa b'kedusha. The kishtei mozdam afilu wachiyasiri, that they're usser to marry, even though it looks very different. The fact that it looks more different is the reason why it should be more mutter. And why does it look more different? Because one of them was born after the mother was, one of them was conceived when the mother was Jewish. One of them was conceived when the mother was a Goya. So it looked more different. So you might think that it's more different than more mutter. So we're still in another Gemara, but we'll stop here. And Machlokes, two versions of the Machlokes. One is because Kesher's guy, according to that version, everything will be mutter. That the two Gerim, even if they are from a common mother, common father, everything, whatever, common mother only, but there's no Isser because once the Megaya, then Katan Shanola Dami. We'll see the Lacha tomorrow, but that's what the Racha B'Yaakov seems to
They
have.
were born like a Katan. If they Dami, in other words, what? That they're, I don't understand, but they're still brothers. Oh, they become new entities after they're born.
After the Megaya.
After